No, just we're through the first two segments of the season, preseason and then regular season. I'm just really happy and impressed with the way the team has progressed gradually and just consistently improved throughout the year. I thought it was a perfect culmination to those segments this past weekend, playing in front of the biggest crowd in a long time to see a women's game here. And, obviously finished on a roll. And now we head into the next segment, which is conference tournament. And then whatever segment comes after that, and so just excited about where we are. Team's in a great place and looking forward to the challenges ahead.
Scott, when you took over this program, did you have a timetable in mind when you might have a moment like that, beating a top 20 team by 20-plus points, having a celebration on the fourth to finish time for the second in the Pac-12? Did this year exceed that timetable in your head, or can you maybe just walk us through it?
Yeah, that was a long time ago, 4 years ago. I didn't know if we could ever win. I had no idea. There was guarded optimism, of course. I had come from a place where I'd won, so that's what I was used to. So I was confident that we could. But I also understand what conference we play in. And I know, I had watched all these teams for so many years with so many amazing players, and to the thought of winning at a high level against them, is daunting. And so to do what we did in four, and even in our second year to get to 20 wins, exceeded. And then for this year with the youth on this team, we certainly exceeded everybody's expectation, and I'd have to say my own too. I knew we'd be good eventually, but I didn't know if we could quite make it to second and contend like we have and put ourselves in the national conversation, But I learned early this year that not to underestimate this group. This group proved early that they weren't going to be fazed by any situation. They were going to compete and expect to win. So as this year progressed, I would say that, I'm not really surprised any longer,
Does that speak to the caliber of the girls that you brought in, the players that you brought in, where it's not something where you had to hammer home and preach about it taking time, that they came in and they knew right away that they weren't going to be phased by things like that? That speaks to the girls in mind?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think it's talent, and I knew we had talent, young talent, but I knew we had talent. And then character, that combination of just being resilient and wanting to get better every day and doing things right. You have to have those two things in place to be able to be successful in anything. And so this group has that. And then, as a coach, me and the rest, and Mark and Eric and Mandy, we expect to win, and that's just how we conduct every day. Our conversations we expect to be successful. We expect to find a way to win every game, and that's why we're all here, is because that's how we approach this thing. And the team bought into that and shares that, and so just, looked forward to every challenge and figuring out a way to overcome it.
Does it help that you're on a normal schedule this week? I mean, you're used to playing Fridays. That with a tournament, you don't have to. Sometimes you might start on a Wednesday, have a normal week. Does that help?
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. I just, it helps not to have to try to play 4 games in 4 days, and 3 is much better if we can do it, and so buys certainly help, yeah, it allows us today, instead of working on an opponent, to be able to work on ourselves, which is what our normal routine is. Tuesdays we work on us, then we get into our scouts for the week, so we do get to stay the same.
Can you tell, obviously you don't know who's going to win, but how you match up with Utah briefly and how you match up with Washington?
Yeah. Two well-coached teams. Utah hasn't had the year that they wanted. They lost a great player last summer that would have been a senior for them in the center spot, and so they haven't quite had the year they were hoping. But the style that they play is difficult to play against. There's a reason they're in every game. They defend, they control tempo, and they have one of the best players in our conference, in Michelle Plouffe. And so we do match up well with Michelle. As good a player as she is, we have length we have been able to slow her down, relatively speaking. She's going to get her points, but I think, anyway, So that's that game. Washington, has explosive guards. They score from so many different ways. They spread the floor. They're happy shooting a three. They mix up defenses. And so that game is making that team play half court, and Ruth has been an advantage in both games for us against them. I don't see that changing, and then it's just can we defend, their two scorers, and can we find, points for us? And so, two tough teams.
Scott, if you get Jamie back before the end of the season, how do you go about working her back? It's not a negative getting your secondary scorer back, but how do you kind of juggle that lineup?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I mean, that's been the big debate. If we get her, how does it work? This team obviously is on a roll right now. How do we blend her back in to the mix? And I think I can't sit here and answer that. I think that question's answered in practice. So if she gets cleared, which we still don't know, and she gets to practice, then we'll be able to make that determination on just where she's at. What can she do? And how can she help us? And certainly, worst case scenario, we've got the best horse player in the country. And so, so we're hopeful that happens, and that's a good problem to have to worry about.
How's she handling the success and having to watch? Any competitor, she wants to be out there, especially one like Jamie. How's she doing?
Yeah, phenomenal. And it's been absolute torture for her. This is a person that's never sat in her life and has a hard time sitting still anyway. She's been our biggest cheerleader. If you've watched her on the bench this last month, she's the first one up. She's leading the cheers. She's been an incredible teammate. And then it's inspiring just to watch her do what she can do in rehab and getting better. She's been disciplined in it. She's been cleared to be able to run and do stuff to stay physically in shape the last 2 weeks. So she's killing herself out there running sprints and doing different things, staying in shape, getting herself ready. And so I don't know if she could have handled it any better than she has.
What have you learned about the team and how they've dealt with Jamie going down and just keep chugging along? Have you learned anything new about this?
Maybe just more confirmation of what I knew and what I expected. It forced everybody to step up, is what it's done, and they've all risen to the challenge. It's been really awesome thing to watch. This is as unselfish a group as I've ever had. And I've had some incredibly unselfish teams that are very tight knit over my career, and this one's right with them at the top of that list. I think we're really hard to guard right now. Because they've moved the ball so quickly. They're just playing at a high level because we're not looking at one person, including Ruth. I mean, we could just get our eyes focused. We're moving the ball so quickly. Our awareness of what's going on inside is there. And I think that's the toughest team to guard, is where you don't know where it's going to come from. And right now everybody's going, and I think that's just everybody realizing we don't have Jamie. We're not looking that direction. We can't look that direction right now. So we've got to look at ourselves, and we got to look next to us. And they've done that, and it's been beautiful to watch, and it's been a real key to our run here.
As hard as you are to guard, you have guarded very well yourselves, and you said that the buy-in on the defensive end is one of the big pieces. Tell us a little bit more about that, who you kind of had to get completely bought in, and how that's affected this run.
Yeah, well, it's everybody, buying in on the defensive end, and that is a signature of a great program, because defense is sacrifice. It's saying, I'm going to dive on the floor. Allie Gibson sets the tone for us there. She's the first one on the ground. But now it's not just her. I mean, Ruth's diving on the ground. Devin's always on the ground too. But we've got everybody is willing to sacrifice. And I'm not just talking effort either. I'm talking the mind. They have bought into what a scouting report means, where it used to be, oh yeah, this girl does this, she does this, she does that. Now it's, we cannot let her do this, and we're not going to let her do this. And if somebody does, then there's accountability within our group now, which is a different level, and that's a championship mindset. And they've found joy in defense, and that's a special thing, because that means that the player next to you is selling out. And if you know that, then you want to sell out. And it's really epitomizes what team is all about. And this team is a true team that's willing to do whatever it takes to be successful.
Do you have a timetable on Jamie, a time when you're supposed to hear news?
Yeah, this week. I'm supposed to, I mean, hopefully today, find out what level she's cleared at. And so I'm waiting on that, and then, we're hopeful she can get to practice sometime this week.
And back on that defensive thing, Coach, in terms of like people like Sydney and Jamie, prolific scorers, offensive mentality, but those two, and you said everybody has said, okay, the defense is going to help us.
Yes, and I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go
tell
ahead.
us a little bit about those two and others who have that scoring mentality when they come in. You have to break them down, take them. How do you get them?
Yeah.
to the level?
Well, you look at a player like Sydney who can just go score seemingly when she wants to, and especially at the high school level she did. And then Jamie was the same, and players that are offensive players at this level certainly that's what they are, and so then defense doesn't matter as much. They've never really had to grind on the defensive end unless they've been in a really special situation at a high school or AAU situation where it was demanded, and so we have to typically teach that to those players. Well, that's a completely different mindset from anything they've ever had. It's like, well, what do you mean I have to, and so to get those players to understand, they have to see the game differently, and this team has done that. They've understood how, in a way, controllable a basketball game can be if you pay attention to the right things and are willing to grind on that end of the floor. And this team has figured that out.
Isn't there kind of a drop dead date for like this week when you either start introducing Jamie into practice for Friday's game or you don't?
For sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, we would need to have her out there Wednesday, I'd guess, and see what she can do.
Scott, you guys were picked to finish 8th preseason and are finishing tied for second. How would you assess the job that you've done?
Me as in my staff.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm proud of what we've accomplished this year, no question. It's been fun to take a group that had so far to go and watch them progress daily, and I look at the job that Mark Campbell does and Eric Eli does and Mandy Close does, and it's inspiring to me just to see how much they sacrifice for this group. This team has been as prepared as any group I've ever been a part of, and it's due to those people. And so I feel good about what we've done, and I think it's just been a beautiful relationship. The team's given everything, we've given everything, and we've had success because of it.
Talking to you a little bit and some of your players and Coach Campbell, asking about turning points, almost everyone talks about tough losses as sort of being a motivating force. Tell us a little bit about those close games and what kind of got into the teams in a collective soul, it seems.
Yeah, well, there's two ways to lose. One, you give everything and it breaks your heart, and another way you give in and then you brush it off. Like, well, it wasn't our day, or you come up with excuses or something like that. This team's never done that. Every loss has just been like a stab to the heart, and that's playing this game the right way. And they've done that from the beginning, and that's what I attribute our success to. Is just that's when I say character, that's what I mean. You look back to our first loss was Penn State. And it was a game we led at half. We were in it. This is a team that's elite. I don't know what they're ranked now, top 15, I know. An elite program. They have the elite expectation of success. They've won the Big Ten, I think, 3 years in a row, something like that. And this team wasn't fazed by them. And they were disappointed we lost the game. This is November with a bunch of, little kids, out there playing in an inexperienced center and, all the reasons in the world to roll over. And they were upset that we didn't find a way to win that game. And then the next day lost another tough one to Florida, a team that's beaten Kentucky twice, this year. And this group in November went toe-to-toe with them and lost it, and were heartbroken that we couldn't figure out a way to win that, when everybody in the world's going, well, you shouldn't have won that one, right? And so those were two. Then you look at Notre Dame, and the same thing. I read an article today that had a quote from Sid saying it was my fault we lost to Notre Dame. Had the ball down 4 with 2 minutes to go, and she turns it over, and we have a true freshman taking the blame for losing Notre Dame, saying that's a game we could have won, and it's my fault. That's handling it right and taking ownership over it and saying, I'm going to do better next time. And then the start to our conference schedule is the same thing. You look at Cal was very similar to the Florida game, mistakes down the stretch, and Brittany Boyd took the game over, and we weren't prepared to handle her defense at that time of the year. And so those losses were such great lessons for this team, but they're only lessons if you're willing to learn from them. This team didn't ignore those lessons. They got better because of them, and now that has switched. And now their expectation is we're winning these. We understand what it takes to win. And they never once got discouraged. Amazing.
Scott, who was most upset about you not being named Pac-12 Coach of the Year?
John? No, I don't know. I don't know.
I know you couldn't care less.
I don't know. No.
Could you?
No, it's not. It's out of my control. I mean, all we do is grind and work as hard as we can. And like I said, I'm very proud of the job we did this year. But Coach Vanderveer is a pretty good coach.
Scott, all this talk of shooters and Jamie and Sid, and they put up the gaudy stats, but you have the Pac-12's leading three-point shooter on your team, and Gabby Hansen, percentage-wise. Did you expect, maybe what were your expectations of her as a freshman coming in? Not as highly touted as someone like Sid.
You caught me off guard on that one, by the way. I was expecting Sid's name. I didn't know you were talking percentage. And isn't that amazing? That's amazing. Anybody who knows Gabby's story knows that she doesn't see herself as a shooter. She never did. I did. It doesn't take you long as a coach to look at somebody's form, how they shoot the ball, and say, this player should be an elite shooter. But she came in without confidence in the three-point shot, and I never understood it. And through the recruiting process, I never understood it. I'm like, you have a beautiful three-point shot, and she says, I'm just okay, and so she hung her hat on hustle plays, rebounds, the ability to pass the ball and score in different ways, attack off the dribble, and I'm like, no, we need you knocking threes down, and it's important that you see yourself in that way and be confident. And, they shoot every day. Coach Campbell and Coach and Mandy do a great job with the guards, and so she's got a ton of reps. What people probably don't know is this summer in August, she joined the Swedish national team for her age group and shot something like 0 for 35 from three. It was something, I'm watching stats each day and I'm like, oh man, come on, Gabby, knock a shot down. You're more than capable, but who knows what dynamics were going on. She fit in with that team late in the summer because she came to our bridge program, and so she came in with this doubt. And if you know her, that's not her. She's not a kid she's a very confident basketball player, and that's what makes her who she is. And so it was awesome to watch her get over that hurdle, but she's just such a competitor, that eventually the will to win overcame any of that stuff. And now, here she is leading our conference. Pretty cool story.
Gabby gets named to the Pac-12 All-Freshman Honorable Mention. Sid gets a Pac-12 All-Pac-12 nod. And every year you've been here, you've had a freshman make the Pac-12 All-Freshman team at least. What is it about freshmen that you've been so successful working with and teaching, I guess?
Yeah. Well, part of it's opportunity, for sure. We've needed them to come into play. No question. But another part is talent. We've been able to attract some very talented basketball players, and then the other part is I don't treat them like freshmen. I learned that a long time ago. I've had several first-year players come in and have great years for me over my career. And, the national championship team I coached had, it's well documented. We had 10 true freshmen on that team and only 4 returners and no returning starters. We needed them to play well. And so I had to catch them up quick. And so my expectation is, you learn quickly and you eliminate those mistakes, and you're a basketball player. I don't care what year you are, how much experience do you need? You've seen it once, that's enough, right? Let's fix those things, and that's our expectation every day. So we treat Sid like I would treat someone if he was 30 years old. I don't care, and so they've risen to those expectations. Fortunately, they have those expectations of themselves, though, too. And then just the culture within our group. They were accepted from day one, and I attribute that to Alyssa. and Allie for including them. You know, there was no, you're the little freshman, you know, wait your turn. None of that. There's like, we're a team. I don't care who you are, what year you are. You're loved. Let's go. Let's be successful. And so I think it's a combination of all that.
You mentioned, Melissa, how special is it for you to see her as the lone senior be a part of this?
Yeah, I mean, storybook, really. You know, if you look at the whole 4 years, to come into so many unknowns and in many ways just throwing herself to the wolves. You know, this was going to be a rough go. She stuck with that. You know, to see her rewarded, I mean, like I said the other day, it doesn't get better than what happened on Sunday. It just doesn't. Your senior day, you know, to turn a place that was what it was 4 years ago into 5,200 people, biggest crowd in a long time, more than a decade, you know, and then to beat a ranked opponent that same day, that's as good as it gets. And well-deserved, and really proud of Alyssa.
I don't know if you pay much attention to the rankings at all, but going into that weekend, you were 32 in the RPI, and then following that weekend, you dropped 2 spots to 34. How do you make sense of that?
That's just numbers game. You know, there's so many different variables that go on out of our control. You know, so all we can, well, the numbers exactly are, but all we can do is continue to be successful, you know, and control what we can, and that's playing great basketball. So we need to continue to do that.